Intelligence Report July 13, 2026 Geopolitical and Macroeconomics. U.S. Iran hostilities escalate as Trump says the U.S. reinstates a Strait of Hormuz blockade and plans to charge 20% on cargo, while Iran warns against interference and oil prices jump over 3%. Hormuz traffic has slowed to a 2-month low, and this development is generally viewed as causing short-term risk asset and Bitcoin volatility. Russia's crude output hits its lowest level in over 2 years amid Ukraine attacks on oil infrastructure, while Putin vows an overwhelming response. EU officials also flag uncertainty over rolling over the Russia oil price cap. This type of energy supply shock usually feeds inflation and rate path anxiety. South Korea's Kospi plunges about 9.2% overnight as broader risk assets sell off. India's inflation breaches its target for the first time in over a year, setting the stage for possible rate hikes, while China's GDP growth is expected to slow and raise stimulus hopes. Gold drops nearly 3% as Middle East tension revives rate hike prospects rather than classic safe haven bids. General crypto market. Bitcoin weakens toward the low $62Ks/sub $63K area as oil spikes revive inflation concerns, with reports of BTC threatening $62,000 and roughly $253 million in leveraged liquidations in the broader risk route. Analysts also argue panic selling may be fading as sellers' profit margins compress and spot ETF demand reappears. U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs draw about $197 million and snap an 8-week outflow streak, with BTC and ETH ETFs flipping green after a lengthy outflow stretch. This is generally viewed as a constructive near-term demand signal even while price remains pressured by geopolitics. Michael Saylor's strategy sells roughly $467 million of MSTR shares, makes no Bitcoin purchases for another week, and lifts its USD cash reserve to about $3 billion, 20-plus months of preferred dividend and interest coverage, while holding 843,775 BTC. Standard Chartered and other analysts warn Saylor needs a clearer pivot message, and this outcome highlights how Treasury company communication can muddle Bitcoin sentiment. Bitmine, Tom Lee, adds tens of millions in ETH, pushing holdings toward 5.77M ETH, about 4.8% of supply, with Lee saying users are starting to see Ethereum as money amid Robinhood chain activity. A dormant Bitcoin whale also moves about $188 million in BTC after 7 years. Coinbase Derivatives reports roughly $4.75 billion daily volume and $28.9 billion open interest after Deribit integration, while Binance June futures volume near $1.6t defies weak spot activity. Robinhood chain surges into the top 5 by weekly DEX volume, reports of $3.1b weekly volume $135M value and hundreds of thousands of addresses. But memecoins dominate activity versus the original tokenized stock thesis. This could be worth watching for whether real RWA use cases catch up to speculative volume. EDX Markets closes a $76 million Series C led by SBI Holdings. eToro takes a strategic stake in on-chain perps exchange Extended and plans a Zengo wallet tie-up. Coinbase Ventures tops crypto VC lists for H1 2026 even as overall funding remains soft. Traditional finance plus crypto convergence. Bloomberg reports Wall Street is mounting pushback on the trillion-dollar stablecoin boom after years of watching the sector grow into a major payments network. This development is generally viewed as strategic for banks trying to protect deposit and payments franchise share. One Quarter, a UK Treasury-backed tokenization report cites Ripple as a convergence model and targets putting repo, gilts, and funds on-chain within about 2 years. BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley join a 54-firm UK government tokenization task force. Separate analysis says the UK push could add as much as $44 billion to annual output by 2035. This is a significant milestone for institutional on-chain market infrastructure. Japan's Progmat, largest security token platform, 64.6% market share by issuance value, moves nearly $3 billion of security tokens to Avalanche. SBI Holdings pivots a blockchain initiative toward Solana with the Solana Foundation, SBI Solana Global, for tokenization and stablecoin issuance, and plans JPYSC stablecoin lending at about 3% yield. Lawson convenience stores pilot yen stablecoin payments with JPYC. These moves are generally viewed as strategic for Asia's real-world crypto payments and RWA stack. Bolivia weighs adding Tether's USDT to its national payment system after crypto volumes hit about $430 million following mid-2024 restriction removals. Stablecoin FX was priced about 3.2 BPS below interbank rates across 260 corridors in Q2, with routing now the biggest cost lever, borderless. Kraken becomes the first major U.S. exchange to support USDC.E on the Tempo network. Legacy tech still blocks 71% of UK financial institutions from digital assets, which could be worth watching for infrastructure spend catch-up. Regulatory developments. President Trump and the White House pressed the Senate to advance the Clarity Act while an ethics fight over officials' crypto business ties continues. Polymarket odds for the Clarity Act being signed into law in 2026 have been marked near the mid-20% range on recent snapshots after earlier higher readings, and this type of political deadlock usually causes delayed institutional clarity and choppy policy-sensitive flows. Chinese prosecutors urge a more proactive approach to crypto money laundering cases and float treating Mixer/privacy coin use as a potential laundering indicator, alongside blockchain evidence rules and a state platform for seized coins. This outcome highlights ongoing hardline enforcement posture, even as trading remains largely prohibited. Bank of Thailand flags abnormal stablecoin, notably USDT, trades in a gray economy, crackdown using data analytics, and refers findings to the securities regulator. Wall Street transfer agents lobby the SEC, warning that third-party tokens pose market integrity risks and seeking preferential treatment for company-authorized tokenization. Pakistan's crypto framework debate intensifies after a fatwa against crypto purchases, with the regulator engaging Islamic scholars. DEFI and RWA tokenization, UK tokenization roadmap, digital gilt target early 2027, tokenized bonds for trading/borrowing, plus Japan's Progmat move to Avalanche and SBI's Solana/Yen stablecoin lending stack form the clearest RWA institutionalization wave of the day. This development is generally viewed as strategic for permission plus permissionless hybrid market design. Near governance votes to scrap the developer gas rebate so all gas fees are burned. Jito proposes a token-centric model pledging JTX revenue to JTO buybacks and burns. These tokenomic shifts could be worth watching for fee burn and value accrual narratives in L1/L2 ecosystems. AI and blockchain. Google targets NVIDIA customers with a TPU sales push, signaling a sharper AI chip war, while TSMC posts record Q2 revenue on AI demand and plans more advanced packaging capacity. Anthropic CFO says most compute still goes to research rather than customers. Separately, SWYFTX estimates AI microbusinesses could drive about $262 billion in stablecoin volume by 2033 as AI-native freelancers prefer crypto rails. This convergence of AI infrastructure and crypto payments is generally viewed as a multi-year structural theme. Prediction markets. 2/4, Calsure Pro Terminal launches what it bills as the first U.S. platform for trading perpetuals. A product expansion that could attract more sophisticated flow if it clears ongoing compliance scrutiny. Sports-linked crypto and prediction activity stays elevated around World Cup semifinals, with reports citing multi-billion-dollar prediction/betting interest. Polymarket's Clarity Act 2026 market sits in a subdued probability zone relative to earlier spring highs, reflecting ethics and calendar risk. This development is generally viewed as strategic for regulated U.S. event contract growth, but remains sensitive to bank and political restrictions. Risk/opportunity analysis. Opportunity. UK and Japan tokenization plus stablecoin payments, Progmat/Avalanche, SBI/Solana, Lawson JPYC, UK task force with BlackRock/JPM/GS/MS, and ETF inflow restarts are the cleanest constructive signals. Bitmine's ETH accumulation and Robinhood chain volume also support a selective Ethereum/infrastructure narrative. Risk, Hormuz blockade rhetoric, oil spikes, and inflation repricing can keep pressure on BTC near $62.63K even when ETF flows improve. Strategies cash hoard/no-buy weeks and communication confusion can dampen treasury company beta. Clarity Act ethics deadlock keeps U.S. market structure upside delayed. Asia enforcement, Thailand's stablecoin crackdown, China laundering rules, and bank pushback on stablecoins raise compliance and franchise risk friction for payments growth. Recommendations: short, mid, long term. Short term, monitor BTC around $62,000 support and oil/Hormuz headlines. Watch whether ETF inflows persist into U.S. inflation and earnings week. Midterm, track Clarity Act ethics negotiations and Senate calendar. Follow UK tokenization task force live use cases and Japan yen stablecoin lending/payment pilots. Long term, favor infrastructure where TradFi tokenization, stablecoin FX routing, and AI agent payment rails intersect. Avalanche/Solana RWA rails. ETH-L2 tokenized asset stacks, stablecoin payment corridors. Risk warnings. Geopolitical shocks in the Strait of Hormuz can reprice inflation, rates, and risk assets within hours. Leveraged crypto positions remain vulnerable to cascade liquidations on macro headlines. Regulatory outcomes for the Clarity Act, Chinese enforcement, and Thai stablecoin surveillance can change operational risk for exchanges, mixers, and payment firms quickly. Concentrated treasury strategies, BTC or ETH, can amplify both upside narrative and drawdown risk when financing or messaging shifts. Key metrics to watch: Bitcoin price reaction to Hormuz/oil spikes and whether $62,000 holds. US. Spot BTC/ETH ETF daily net flows after the outflow streak break, Clarity Act Senate schedule and polymarket probability path, strategy USD reserve actions versus any resumption of BTC purchases, UK tokenization task force milestones and Japan JPYSC lending/Lawson payment pilot volumes, Robinhood chain mix, Memecoin versus tokenized real-world asset share, stablecoin corridor pricing versus interbank FX, and Thailand/China enforcement headlines. This is not financial advice. This has been your daily market intelligence report for the July 13, 2026.